We are so honored and delighted that she's here for the first time at the Porch, so please give it up for Martha Frankel.
I'm a New York Jew with an obsessive personality. So when I first moved up here, I didn't want a garden, I wanted a farm. I was forever turning over the soil to plant things, but the soil was really clay and nothing ever happened. I would spend $1,000 and get a carrot. And it was terrible, but it didn't stop me. I didn't want a kitten, I wanted livestock. I got ducks and chickens, we got a goat. The goat lived outside of where we lived. I mean, it was just insane. So when I started going to the Boyceville Inn, and people told me that we had a volunteer fire department, I became obsessed with it. I could be a volunteer, I kept saying, and everybody would go like that. But then I found out how it worked, that you apply to become a member and that they voted on you. They passed around a box and it had white balls and black balls, and if you got less than 2 black balls, then you were allowed to be a fireman. But they told me, it was the mid-'70s, we don't take women. I was like, well, what do you mean? Why not? Because the shoes would be too big. I'll buy my own shoes, I said. No, you could be in the ladies' auxiliary. I was not going to be in the ladies' auxiliary. Well, what I do, I said, they said you would go to the fire and you would comfort the people whose house was burning down. I'm not a very comforting figure, so I said no. But I would go to the bar and I'd say, oh, that guy must be a volunteer, and I'd say, oh, I'm Martha Frankel. I want to be a volunteer. I'm home during the day because we live where we work, so I could be there. First, and I could drive the truck, and I would just go like this. And finally, in April, they were going to open up the membership, and my husband applied, and I applied, and we were standing outside so excited, and they came out and they said, Steve, yes, you're in. You didn't get any black balls. And I was so excited, and then they came out and they said, well, you got in. You only got 2 black balls, and you need 3 to get. I said, who blackballed me? What kind of? But I joined, and we went out to celebrate. And we went home about 12:30, and at 1:30 they'd given us this box. It's called a plectron. And when a fire happens, it emits a sound that dogs are afraid of. It's just this really loud sound. Well, we didn't really know that until 1:30 in the morning when it went off. And we had to get dressed and go down to the firehouse and hung out a couple of hours, and then we went home, and then it went off again. I said to Steve, maybe this isn't for us. And they said, you got to take some classes. But the next week we were home, and we were sitting around, just Steve and I, smoking a joint, and the plectron went off. And it said that there was a car in the woods with a small fire in the back seat. So we look at each other. We really don't know what we're doing, but Steve says, we should go up there. It's about a half a mile away. And we go up, and there is indeed a car in the woods with a small fire in the back seat. I'll say it was as big as my hand. But we don't have a fire extinguisher, so Steve says, let me go get the truck. You stay here. Because other people will come. The other firemen will come. The fire now is about as big as a bread box. And Steve brings the truck up, and we have no idea how to get water out of it. None. And so we're saying, where is everybody? What? Now the fire has engulfed the back seat of the car. Suffice to say, the car blew up while Steve and I were dicking around with the fire truck. So the next week we began our firematics classes. Once a week for 8 weeks on Wednesday night, we went to class with 2 other firemen and a woman named Yolanda. Yolanda is married to the fire chief in our town. She had no interest in being a fireman, but she wanted to know what was what. And she has a traumatic brain injury. The first night the guy says, okay, everyone here knows what the spontaneous combustion engine does, right? And as I'm about to say, no, I don't, Steve elbows me and he says, don't. But Yolanda, bless Yolanda, says, no, I don't, so they have to explain it. And I still don't understand, but we go forward and we learn how to get water out of the truck, and we learn how to drive the truck and all those things. And Yolanda every week says, could you go back to the spontaneous? And I'm like, yes, Yolanda. Yes, go girl. Anyway, we get our certificate, which is completely insane because I still don't know how to do any of those things. But I get a mentor in the fire department. He teaches me how to drive the truck. One night he says, let's take the truck down the long hill in Boyceville. And I'm tooling along, this thing is moving. He says, how many gallons are in the truck? And I said, I don't know. He says, 150,000. I'm like, wow, that's a lot. And he says, yeah, they weigh 8 pounds a gallon. And I'm like, well, that's like a half a ton of, and he says, yeah, so when you go to put your foot on the brake, not much is going to happen. And that's true, nothing happens. I was like tapping. Anyway, he takes me to the high school and he puts a ladder up to the second floor and he teaches me to carry a hose full of water up to the second floor and shoot it. And I had never felt that great. I had never felt as accomplished and as great as I did that night. And about a week later, I was in Woodstock playing mahjong with my girlfriends, and I got a call that said that Steve's shop was on fire. And when we drove back into town, it looked like the school must be on fire because it was so big. And when I got there, Steve was throwing pieces of wood out of his wood shop, and it was chaos. And I thought, maybe this is not for me, maybe, because I froze. And I watched the difference between myself and Steve and the other firemen. They kept going, and I was like, maybe I shouldn't. But I stuck it out for another 6 months, and what I would do is I would get to a fire, and I would look around, I would see who was freaking out, and I would go over to comfort them. Because I think that's how compassion works. So I said, okay, I can't do this, but I like volunteering, so I should learn how to drive the ambulance, which is another thing that happens when you live in a small town, and that's all volunteer. So I learned how to drive it. The ambulance has like 2 motors and lots of lights, and I don't know. I was never really comfortable with it, but I took a CPR class, and I loved it. And they kept saying, you only have 4 minutes. You only have 4 minutes. And what's the first thing you do when you get, and somebody's unconscious? I'm like, I don't know, stick your fingers in their mouth? I don't know. They said, no, tell them your name. Tell them your name. So it's like always walking around, like looking, who's going to drop dead in front of me? I'm going to save them. I'm going to tell them my name. So my first day on the squad was a Monday, and around 10 o'clock in the morning, we got a call that there was a man in cardiac arrest at the church in Shokan. And I didn't really think about what that would mean, but when I got there, it was the priest. And there was a woman who I guess took care of the priest, and she was hysterical, and she said, go inside, he's having a heart attack. And I go running in, and there is a 90-year-old man in a diaper, dead. And she says, give him CPR. No way. There's no way. And she's screaming. So I say, okay, please step out of the room, because when I do CPR, it takes a lot of room. And I basically lean down and go, no, I don't think that works. She said, clear his airways. Like, okay, they don't give you rubber gloves then. So I just stuck my hand in his mouth, but he was dead. Finally, somebody who knew what they were doing came in and took his pulse and said, no, he's dead. So I got off that one, and about a week later, I was on the squad again, and the call came in that a woman had tried a suicide attempt. And I took the ambulance this time, and there were lights, and I went, and when I got there, there were 2 guys standing outside smoking a cigarette, and I was like, am I in the right place? The guy said, yeah, my wife's inside. She tried to kill herself. He seemed kind of blasé, but whatever. I ran in, and there was a woman lying there. She was definitely conscious. And I said, hey, what's with all the dolls? She had hundreds of dolls. And she said, sit down, I'll tell you. I said, okay, I will. So I sat down, and she told me about her dolls. And I didn't in any way ask how she was or what she needed. I just listened to her. And then the woman who ran the ambulance squad came in and sort of assessed the situation, and she said, what'd you do to the truck? And I said, what do you mean? She said, all the lights are off. And we went out. I had clearly not raised the ambulance squad door enough, and I had hit it on the way out. So I said, well, maybe this isn't for me, but you can see I'm obsessive. So a few days later, I went with some friends of mine to Yankee Stadium. We got tickets in the second row in right field. Reggie was playing. It was really great times for the Yankees. And we were drinking and smoking and just carrying on. And there was a really nice father and son in front of us that spoke Spanish, and they just seemed adorable. The guy kept, holding the boy up when Reggie got a ball, and then Reggie tossed him a ball, and we were screaming, and then the guy had a heart attack. He grabbed his heart and fell on the ground. How lucky is he that I'm in the row behind him, okay? I don't even hesitate. I jump over. I pull the guy's hair back. I'm about to clear his airways, and I say, "Me llama Martha. Me llama Martha." And he says, "What the fuck?" And he pushes me away because he was not having a heart attack. He had gone to look for his cigarettes. He realized they fell on the floor, and he reached out to get them when the crazy woman from behind him jumped on him. Anyway, thank you so much.